Towards the end of October 2021, it was confirmed that the Grand National at Blackpool Pleasure Beach would remain closed for the rest of the 2021 season. This was found on the Planned Maintenance and Closures webpage on the official Blackpool Pleasure Beach website. Once this had been seen, the rumour mill went into overdrive with suggestions of permanent closure, RMC conversion, retracking, and anything else that you can think of really. The truth is, nobody actually knows what the future holds for the Grand National outside of Blackpool Pleasure Beach. This year, the Pleasure Beach closes on the 12th of December and then the new season begins on the 12th of February 2022. That's a 9-week turnaround to carry out annual winter maintenance across the whole park. Therefore, it's possible that the Grand National has been taken out of service earlier than the other rides so that the maintenance team could carry out their full inspections before everything else is closed. Then they can plan out the priority points for refurbishment and then make a start on it before the full closed season kicks in. The Grand National has been slated for being too rough in the past couple of years, whether that be from roller coaster enthusiasts or non-roller coaster enthusiasts who've wrote about it on the internet. In all honesty, I've hardly enjoyed it for years, but once it had opened back up to full trains rather than half trains, which was enforced by social distancing rules last year and early parts of this year, I have been enjoying it a lot more. It was probably papering over the cracks though, because whilst it was more enjoyable than it had been, there was no getting away from the fact it was still significantly rougher than both the Big Dipper and Nickelodeon Streak. So in my opinion, what are the options for the future of the Grand National? Now before I go into these points, I want to be clear that these are my opinions and my opinions only. These are not based on information passed to me from staff at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. There's the option of retracking problematic sections of the ride. For example, last winter the Big Dipper's first drop was completely retracked, and it was noticeably 1,000,000 times smoother and better to go on it this year when the Pleasure Beach reopened for 2021 compared to how it had been in the few years previous. There's certainly a possibility that this could be what happens, but this kind of refurb does take time, it takes money, and it requires a lot of engineers to carry out the work. If this turns out to be a 6-month project and the Grand National reopens considerably smoother around Easter time next year, would anybody be complaining? Staying on the subject of retracks, there's always the possibility that the decision will be taken to fully retrack the Grand National, as well as improving the structure of the ride where it may be needed. This, in my opinion, would be a 12-month project, minimum. But again, would anyone complain at the Grand National having a year or maybe longer out of service whilst it is structurally strengthened, retracked, and then reopens, say, sometime in 2023, smoother than it's been for the last 15 or 20 years? I'd certainly not be complaining. I do see this as a possibility, but I do wonder if it'd be something that Pleasure Beach would need to bring in an external company for, so that there's enough of a workforce to carry out all of the work. I am not for 1 minute suggesting Blackpool Pleasure Beach don't have the know-how for this, because they clearly do, which is why we still have the chance to enjoy so many traditional wooden roller coasters at their park. But it may be a project that requires an extra 20 or 30 people at least. There's UK-based companies like Earlsden Coasters and Global Coasters, which both specialise in wooden roller coaster refurbishment projects. Those companies also work with RMC from time to time too, but more on RMC soon. Permanent closure is probably not out of the question, but I don't think that's a likely option at this point. There's obviously the cravings for an RMC roller coaster to be built in the UK, and I always think, at what cost though? They are fantastic roller coasters, but not every part needs one. Not every wooden roller coaster needs converting, and we need to be realistic about the Grand National when it comes to RMC. I have been very outspoken on this subject over the years in saying that an RMC conversion at Blackpool Pleasure Beach is extremely unlikely. I stand by this because of several reasons. Firstly, cost. Untamed, which is an RMC conversion, cost €12.5 million. Untamed was a conversion of Robin Hood at Wallaby Holland. Robin Hood was a Vekoma wooden roller coaster that opened in the year 2000, so it was by no means a traditional woody, and was not built into a sand base like the Grand National is. It's worth noting that Blackpool Pleasure Beach is built on sand, and when they built the big one, they had to do foundations like 40 or 50 foot into the ground. So that's my second reason. The Grand National is built into a sand base and does not have concrete foundations, which an RMC structure is going to need. Thirdly, space. Have you seen how tight the footprint is that the Grand National stands on? An RMC conversion would require its structure to use a lot more space and potentially cause issues for the access road in and out of the pleasure beach, which runs alongside the Grand National. I do not think that RMC are completely out of the running to have some involvement with the Grand National's future. The company have worked on fixing up traditional wooden roller coasters in the past, and they may have ideas which could be implemented into the refurbishment of the Grand National. But in my opinion, a full conversion is out of the question. I've been wrong before and will be wrong about things again, but an RMC conversion, in my opinion, seems very unlikely at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Very briefly on the subject of RMCs, they're fantastic, but the thirst for one in place of every traditional wooden roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach has become very, very tiresome. Maybe it feels like that because for me the Pleasure Beach would no longer be the same place if they started ripping out the woodies for modern coasters. Anyway, moving back to the Grand National, it's got Grade 2 listed status from Heritage England. Do I agree with roller coasters being listed? No, I don't. I think it stifles a park's redevelopment, but that debate is definitely for another video. I don't believe Heritage England would take too kindly to the Grand National being RMC converted or removed. So at this point in time I think it's reasonable to assume we're going to see a lot of refurbishment carried out on the National, but I don't think it's going to be a quick fix. And as fans, we may have to have some patience. What do you think the future holds for the Grand National at Blackpool Pleasure Beach? Many thanks for watching,